Number 6 in our post-spring SEC Power Rankings, the Texas A&M Aggies. Marcel Reed coming back from Mike Elko and company. They got Casey Concepcion, right?
Yep.
Wide receiver from NC State. He was a big transfer portal addition for them. Obviously, them losing Noah Thomas, but offensive side of the ball, the story for them, deepest running back room in the country per Landon Martin.
I'm not saying they're the best running back room in the country. I think that's Penn State, Notre Dame, but deepest. Like they've got four tailbacks that are all really good and have all started games. They just, and a lot of that's due to because multiple people got banged up. But Reuben Owens is back, Le'Veon Moss is back, Amari Daniels is back, and Emmitt Smith's son EJ Smith is back. So those four, that's as deep as any running back room in the country.
Yeah. And then you and I had a pretty spirited discussion yesterday morning. So I need you to sell me on their defense. I know they're losing 3 pretty big game records that, like you said, they always weren't putting up, tons of stats or whatever, but they were always on that scouting report for the opposing offensive coordinator. Hey, let's keep an eye on where these guys are.
Yeah. So Nick Scorton and the Shamar Turner and Shamar Stewart, from a production standpoint, Nick Scorton was incredible, the transfer from Purdue last year. Shamar Turner and Shamar Stewart are the definition of the guys that will jump off the page for you at the Underwear Olympics at the NFL Combine. I mean, they're just monster human beings that look like they were made in the lab to be defensive linemen. Problem is you would watch games and you would ask, has Shamar Turner, has he played today? Has Shamar Stewart, has he played today? And then you'd watch games that you're like, how is that guy not, like when you look up his stat line, you look up his production numbers, like, again, they're really good football players that have a chance to be great NFL players because, again, those that you just don't make they don't make a lot of those types of players that are that big, that are that athletic, that have that much talent. But again, their production just wasn't overall there, Shamar Turner and Shamar Stewart. So I think from a production standpoint, I went and looked at it. A&M returns 8 of their top 10 tacklers. So I'm just not that worried that Mike Elko, like, do you respect Mike Elko as one of the best defensive minds in all of college football? Yeah, me too. And I just think that Mike Elko, in year 2 for him, that I'm just not going to be worried about Texas A&M defensively. Like, he's earned my respect enough, like some of these other coaches that we talk about, that going into the year, I'm just not worried about a Mike Elko coach team and their defense. I do think that what they're bringing back with the production that they are going to be bringing back, I like it a lot. And I like the fact that they added T.J. Searcy, was an edge rusher from Florida, who was one of Florida's best defensive players last year, and arguably Iowa State's best defensive lineman. And I'm probably going to butcher the name, but Tyler Anyedem, that they brought in from Iowa State defensive lineman, and Julian Humphrey, who was one of the surprise defensive back transfers leading into the SEC championship game against Texas. All of a sudden, in the December transfer portal, Julian Humphrey, who's starting at Georgia at the time, enters the portal.
Yeah.
And so they added him a defensive back. So, like, I just think the defense overall is going to be fine under Mike Elko. I'm more excited about the jump, that the potential that this offense can make this year. Did you see our boy Jake Crane on Crane & Company, his top 10 quarterback list yesterday?
Yeah.
He's the only person I've seen that had this on top QB's list, and that's Marcel Reed. He had him on his top 10 list. I mean, I wouldn't have him on my list, but like, I don't hate it with the potential that he has this year. Marcel Reed does not get mentioned among any of these QBs going into this year in the SEC as a potential, like, really, really good quarterback. But year 2 in Colin Klein's system, dude was a true freshman last year playing SEC football. That's tough to do, man, to be really good as a true freshman. And if he can progress in the passing game, nobody's doubting his running ability. But obviously in Colin Klein's offense, what is one of the things that he likes from a quarterback position, Tyler?
He wants to run the ball.
He wants to run the football. So with the stable of tailbacks, with Reed's dual threat ability at the quarterback position, and now with the playmakers that he's got on the outside, with Casey Concepcion, like you said, Mario Craver was a transfer they brought in from Mississippi State, who's extremely explosive, and a guy that everybody was excited about last year going into the year, the 5-star #1 overall listed athlete in the country, in Terry Bussey. We were wondering where that guy was going to end up playing. Looks like he's settled in at the wide receiver position. So you take those 3 guys that I just mentioned, those 3 receivers, Marcel Reed, and those stable of tailbacks. As far as like overall just speed and explosiveness, they're going to have multiple guys, like 4 or 5 guys on the field at one time that can all stick their nose on the goalpost if they get their hands on the ball, if they get a little bit of a crease. That's the type of explosive, like the weapons that they're going to have offensively this year. For me, it's really what can the offensive line do? They got better last year on the offensive line. They were a little bit better, but that position group in general needs to improve. For them to compete against like Texas, for example, in that game they played to Texas last year, that Texas defense just completely shut down Texas A&M's offense, and they just couldn't move the ball. For Texas A&M to compete with the top teams in the country, like your Georgias, your Texas, your Ohio States, those types of teams, can they win multiple games in the college football playoff? Can they compete for an SEC championship? That offensive line needs to get better. So I'm excited to see what that bunch can look like this year, because I do think they've got the playmakers on offense, and I do think Mike Elko's defense will be solid. So that's probably why we didn't have Texas A&M maybe as high as some of these other teams, but still being sixth.
We still have them higher than a lot. I mean, I haven't even seen them in the top 25 in a lot of these way too early rankings,
which to me is egregious. I think that's egregious. I actually heard Greg McElroy talking the other day, and he was saying that one of the teams that needs to be talked about more this offseason is Texas A&M. It's almost like, they lost in that game against Texas last year, and the way that they looked in that game.
And everybody saw them against South Carolina too.
Exactly. Yeah. But like down the stretch, the last couple of games of the year, they didn't look as good.
Yeah.
But people forget, going into that Texas game, if they would have won that game, weren't they poised to be playing in the SEC championship game if they would have won that game?
Yep.
So they were one game away, last game of the year, for actually playing in an SEC championship game.
Yeah.
And they bring a lot of production back and added some nice pieces on top of it. So, I mean, if you're an Aggie fan, you got to be excited about this year and year 2 in the Mike Elko era.